Welcome to the Metal Prognosis. My name is Lee. Now in today's video we're going to be looking at the Solid Studio by Nux. Now this device does a lot of really cool different things. So firstly it has different amp simulators in here, so emulating amps like this Dark Terror here and other ones. Not that one specifically, but different amp heads. And it also has different cabinet and mic settings in here as well, so you can alter and really get some cool different sounds out of it, which is good. But my inspiration for today's video is I want to see if you can record something metal on a budget, more of a budget. So what I've decided to do was we have this Solid Studio, and I'm going to match it up with the Joyo UZI. So I've done a quick price check before I started this video. So in Australian dollars, this is going for just over $200 Australian. And this, the Joyo UZI, is going for about $70 Australian. So definitely on the cheaper side of things. Not the cheapest, you can definitely go cheaper, but I don't want to push it too far on a nasty scale. So I thought these were a reasonable ballpark figure to start with, to try and do cheap. And to take it one step further, instead of just utilizing what's 100% or the factory settings of what this comes with, I utilize the fact that you can upload your own cabinet and mic different emulators. So there's a YouTuber called Kholes who does some really cool stuff that I'll put his picture up there so you can see it. And he gave away his own cabinet and mic settings, not really settings, but setup that he captured. And he gave one away for free. So I've decided to load it up into here because I'm really keen to hear how it sounds and how it reacts to an external piece of gear. So that's going to be cool. So we're going to be putting these in straight into the mixing console, and that is it, nothing else. And I'm really keen to see how far we can push it to see if we can actually get a decent sound out of it or not, or if these just have too much limitations and, well, then we'll have to talk about alternative things, or I don't know. Let's see what discussions it can come up with. So like all my videos, I'll put a camera to these two as best as possible. We'll dial in stuff together, and then we'll have a bit of a jam. So we'll add it to a full band mix with doubling up on the guitars and adding bass and drums. And then we'll have a chat about it afterwards to see how this is all going to work out. So we are meshing the Solid Studio by Nux and the UZI by Joyo to see how they sound. So let's get stuck into it. Now we have everything set up, ready to go. Let's grab my Jackson. And we'll do a couple of little clean tests first. So this is what the guitar sounds like before we engage anything. So a bit rubbish. So now we'll turn on the amp. A little bit of difference. Turn on the cab. So it definitely gives it that warmth and that dynamics that we want. But we also don't want clean. We want some dirty. We want to see if we can actually record metal on this thing. So what I'll do is I'll turn the gain all the way down on the Joyo before I turn it on. I mean, there's all EQ stuff there. I'll just leave that as is, because let's turn it on, just see how it sounds. So I sound a little bit weak, but it's a decent signal coming through. So let's give it a bit of gain. Let's go, I don't know, just a little. Actually, I'll dial it in. That might be more fun. That's brutal. So let's muck around little knobs a little bit, but I think we really need to do that much because that's sounding brutal. So let's give it a little bit of presence because I love to kind of give presence in my tone. Definitely keeping that presence up high. Oh, I'm really hesitant to touch anything else because I'm just doodling now because it's just heaps of fun. I'm just so surprised how much grunt and how much aggression we're getting just out of the Joyo. Just so clean and snappy and aggressive, and there's enough saturation there to really be able to do some cool, like large chords. And yeah, there's so much to say. I'm finding, oh, a little bit out of focus there. So much to say that I'm having trouble to figure out what to say firstly and in what order. I'm actually going to leave it there because I know in most of my videos I like to delve in a little bit and try dialing stuff in and out to get a kind of a nice comparison and feel for all the stuff, but this just works. It just really works as it is. So now I've got the challenging part. So I'll take a step away from the camera And I'm going to see what this inspires me to compose and what put together to record a little jingle for you. And it inspires a lot. So I think that's going to take the longest time, is me just trying to figure out what I want to play with this. So yeah, I'll turn the camera off. I'll doodle around a little bit more just for playing it, leave the settings as they are. And yeah, record something, set it up in the Brady Bunch format with the 4 different squares, different takes that I do, share it with us, and then we'll have a more in-depth talk about it afterwards. Yeah, which I think is, we're going to have some pretty interesting conversations about this. So sit back, relax, enjoy my little jam, and we'll have a chat about it on the other side. Time for my final thoughts on matching up the Solid Studio with the Joyo UZI pedal. So not talking about the individual intricate parts of each unit, because I've done videos on those before, and that's not what this video is about. So firstly, what we haven't spoken about, which we did in this video, is adding Kholes cabinet and mic capture into this unit. That worked out amazingly. I was super surprised, not so much how easy it was, because I knew it was easy, but how well this unit interpreted that and implemented it into the actual sound. And then when we added the UZI, straight away, well, not so much straight away, but as soon as we dialed in the gain, the amount of grunt and aggression that we got, and also tightness too, was very tight. The distortion sound that we got from it, which I was extremely surprised about, because getting a good sound is one thing, but getting it that tight and clear was nothing but a positive thing, but definitely really surprising with it, and how easy it was to do as well. There was very little dialing and mucking around we really needed to do, because there's a whole EQ spectrum here of low, mids and highs, and I didn't touch them at all. Just adding the presence knob on the amp simulator here was enough to really bring the sound to life and to bring it up. So I will confess this, that when I did start this video and start setting it up and putting it together, I thought this might have been a bit mush. The possibilities of this just sounding like crap, it was very high. We're adding cheap instruments together and not knowing how it's going to go, going directly through it without the assistance of an amp or controlling my own cabin mic and EQ and all the other things that I normally like to delve in on, and which is my safety net that I like to have. So the fact that we put these under the spotlight and push them, not even to their max, but we pushed them to a point where we got a really cool sound, was amazing. I was really, really happy with the tones we got. And also while playing it really felt nice with a different type of aggression and push that I could do with each of the jams that I did. And hearing it isolated as well compared to in the mix, the guitar sounded real alive, which is amazing, which also inspired me to do 2 jams instead of 1 because it felt so good. I didn't want to feel like it was just a gimmick, so I did another little quick jam or something different, which added a little bit type of different playing and things and all that to really show that, yeah, these two match up really well. So what I'd like to touch base on now is, so my conclusion is it worked and it was fun. I was very surprised and very happy in the results. But how can you actually utilize this and why? So for starters, these are 2 cheap devices. So the fact that I could just plug this straight in and get a good sound straight off the bat is amazing, because I'm really big on try to get as good as a sound as you can before it goes into the studio. So then when it comes to mixing it and mucking around the studio, all you need to do is do a few little tweaks and that's it. If you've got the main characteristics before it even goes in there, that's half the battle right there. So while you're playing, you're hearing the characteristics, you're feeling the characteristics, and you're giving the song what it needs to with the sounds that you've actually captured, which you really like. And with these together, as I said before, they were cheap, but here's a really cool different alternatives that you can use. So instead of trying to get a big mic and an amp set up with the right loudness and the right noise, and whatever else you need in the right room to capture the sound. This is really simple. This just goes directly into the mixing desk and that's it. No microphones needed whatsoever. So you can just control your sound straight from your computer and that's it. But we can actually take it even further than that as well. If you wanted to, because this has headphone options as well. So if you want to hear some really good quality guitars coming through, this setup can really work. So instead of going straight to your mixing console, headphones straight out of there. Works really well. Also too, when it comes to, I don't want to say also too as well, and in addition to all this, I think it's more artistic. If you're putting together either a song idea to present to other musicians, say your band or other people, I found with my experience, a lot of people have trouble hearing the vision of where you're trying to take a song, unless it's good quality. So unless you've got good sounding guitars, if you try to send them ideas and different riffs or melodies and other sections, sometimes they can't comprehend, not so can't comprehend it, but they can't hear the potential because the quality is a lot lower. Even though us as artists who are creating it can obviously have that vision and that long-term goal of where the song can actually go and where it can take it. This is a really good way to get a really good sound to be able to present to them something that's good quality so they can interpret it a lot easier on where the actual end goal can be. And also too, like EPs, if you're doing like an EP or a demo, here's a really good way to get killer sounding guitars with very little edit. And even to the point, if you want to do like, if someone said, I want to do an album using something like these, I'd have, as an engineer, no problem at all being able to put these together to get a killer guitar sound with just using these type of stuff. So yeah, the possibilities are well, they are kind of endless. It sounds cliche, but it's kind of true. With the levels that you can take it just using these. So another thought that I had that you could really utilize these. So going directly into a computer, the positive things of that is you're using a lot less of the computer's processing power to get your good sound because you've already got it going straight in. And there's also the artistical perspective of it's always better to try get your guitar tones beforehand, so then you commit to them. You come up with sound, you commit to them, then you work with them for there. Because there's a point where if you do too much just in the computer and you've got too much room or too much leverage, you can never commit on something. And the amount of times you change all the different simulators here and there and different other programs and plugins that you can use to get a guitar tone. Sometimes when there's too many options, you're never going to find the best one for you because you're stuck chasing tones and not actually committing and settling and then working from there. So here's a good way from a practical perspective in the studio to be able to go, there it is. The sound's there. It's done. We can move on, which is, a very productive way of approaching it. So that's dealing with the computer. Let's talk about other ways you can actually implement this as well. Let's say, I'm going to put some pictures up there to help me. Let's say you had like an old cassette 4-track recorder where you can chuck this straight in there. So you don't have to worry about mics and cabinets and making noise and trying to go backwards and forwards. You're now going to get a killer guitar sound zone just by plugging this straight into that device, and it's good. Same if you're using like an old ADAT tracking machine or a reel-to-reel, which they can be a real headache to work with. And I do that side because I have worked with them a lot in the past and they are a headache. And a lot of the time I think they can be over glorified. But if I was to use one, if I caught myself in a project using one, having this approach could be really cool because it just goes straight in there and you know the sound and quality is going to be really, really good. So I think I've babbled on enough now. But I feel like I do need to say this. This video is not sponsored or endorsed by any of these brands or anyone or anything. This is me having equipment that I already own and just mashing them together and then realizing that, you know, hot damn, these have got some amazing tones. And I just want to really share my thoughts on what else you can utilize and use with them because it's very versatile, these things, and what technology can really do these days with hardware. So it's not just about keeping everything in the box and all the amazing stuff that can happen with the software in a studio, but what we can still do with the physical items. These are tiny as well. Like this is a standard size pedal. I shouldn't say this is tiny, but compared to having a full rig, and even this rig here is a lot smaller than the biggest, the average size one. So having, 3 times the size of this, trying to get a good sound compared to having these two little things. I think it's just worth celebrating on where we can take things with such devices that are happening now. And I'm sure there's even better stuff coming out now and they're going to come out that can do kind of in the same vein or down the same path, but do even better. So nothing but exciting times ahead, really. But that's all my thoughts, and I have a lot more thoughts on it, but I think I have absolutely babbled on enough. But I want to continue this conversation, and I want to pick up this conversation with your input. What are your thoughts on these? How do you feel about the UZI? Like, have you used it in your own setup with this, and how you can now compare it with how you feel hooking up to, say, the Solid Studio or something else in a similar family? How do you feel about adding Kholes IR or his cabinet and mic capture into this device and doing it? And yeah, how do you feel about the mix compared to it, the guitars being isolated? And pretty much give me all your thoughts. I want to know it all about this little experiment that I did, as well as this video in general. Yeah, definitely keen to hear your thoughts. So in saying that, I'll do my usual sign off now. Whether this video is in the foreground or the background, I absolutely appreciate your company. And this was a very exciting and positive video to do when you get such cool results like this. And I really look forward to joining you again in further videos and continue discussions like this going. And until next time, please stay safe.